There's something about old cloth that makes me wonder who created it. What was it previously? Was it a garment? Was it a tablecloth? Perhaps this lace and fabric began its life in a little house beneath Pendle Hill, where women worked with cloth and thread by the light of a window. The Pendle area of Lancashire is well known for its cotton and textile industry. We were the heart of the British Industrial Revolution with our cotton and spinning mills. Not only that, Pendle has a long connection with witchcraft. So I thought it was pertinent to show you these, which I've prepared these little lace bundles ready for Halloween. The Pendle Witch Trials took part around the same time as the trials in Salem, Massachusetts, and ran a very similar course. I'll put a link to the witch trials in the description for it if you want to look at that. So let's get back to the story. Pendle Hill has had a long connection with textiles. Generations of families have worked with cotton, wool and linen, and cloth became part of everyday life. Women stitched, repaired, dyed, and they passed from one pair of hands to another. Those skills. I like to imagine those hands. A woman sitting quietly with a length of lace beside her. A piece of fabric being carefully saved because nothing was wasted. Perhaps a scrap became part of a child's dress. Perhaps another was tucked away in a sewing basket, waiting to be repurposed into something new. But somehow these little fragments survive. And then years passed, colours faded, edges frayed, but the cloth remained. When I hand dye these vintage textiles today, I'm not trying to make them look new. These are all done in whisper grey. Quite the opposite. I want to reveal what is really there. The age, the softness, the imperfections, and the beautiful marks left by time. Each piece becomes something slightly different. And perhaps that's what I love most about working with vintage textiles. We don't really know whose hands touched them before us. We can only imagine. And sometimes, when I hold a piece of lace, I wonder, what is the story? What is the story behind this piece of beautiful antique or vintage fabric that it's carried for all of these years? These bundles with over 20 pieces of vintage textiles and lace, some of them beautifully hand dyed in whisper grey, are available. Each bundle is slightly different, however similar. The story behind this is that it was a wedding dress in the early 1950s, a beautiful satin, and although dyed with the same whisper grey, you can see that just a slight dusting of the grey has been picked up by the satin. However, the pieces, bits in relief, have taken up a much darker grey. This beautiful doily, one of my favourite pieces, this antique doily has taken up the colour so wonderfully. And how amazing will these all look within your journals or your slow stitch or your quilting projects, your collage. So many things that they can be used for. I'll put a link to them in my Etsy shop so that you can have a look. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed these beautiful textiles as much as I have.